Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Codeman Movies. It is a cold, nasty day in Wisconsin and I just went for a walk and it was effing terrible. I think it's like 19 degrees out, but it feels like 5 degrees out because it's windy. I hate it. So I'm so happy to be back inside, filming this, talking to you guys, talking movies. How you doing? Where's the weather at for you? My buddy in Chicago said it was 50 yesterday and I'm about ready to flip and reach through the throne and punch him in the face. I need a drink. Anyways, guys, grab your drinks. I am drinking. It is Peach Schnapps, Malibu, peach bitters, some just peach juice, and then Sierra Mist. It's not too bad. I'm trying to get rid of some stuff in my house since I'm hopefully moving in January. We'll see what happens with that. I have been looking at apartments and such like that this week. Hopefully, when I go and visit South Carolina in middle of December here, I will find something and we'll be making the move to South Carolina in early 2023. Let's see what happens. Cross your fingers. I really want this to happen. I hope it does. But enough talk about that, guys. Let's talk about movies. Let's forget about our problems in the world and the things we're trying to do, and let's focus on awesome stuff like movies. So yeah, let's just get started right away, guys. First movie I saw this week, I saw it actually on Thanksgiving night. Why is it like that? Oh, nope. That's not what I wanted. I think if I go like this. There we go. Okay. Saw this on Thanksgiving night, guys. Worked at the bar that I work at. We did a Thanksgiving buffet. Got out and I went and decided to go see Spirited. Movie that's on Apple TV Plus right now. If you've seen any of my episodes of Codeman Movies, you know I do not like streaming movies. I want things in theaters. And I'm really glad I saw this movie in theaters, and I'm realizing I forgot something. I always do this. This is why I keep this right here, guys, because these are my notes, and I like having notes so that it's somewhat, structured and not weird and crazy, kind of like it is right now as we're talking, if this will go. Come on. Stop being garbage. How you guys doing? Doing good? Oh, good. Oh, and it works. Okay, so first thing that I kind of knew but didn't really realize was that this is a full-fledged musical. From the songwriters of The Greatest Showman and La La Land, I think, actually. It's a full-fledged musical. Like, the movie opens with a musical number. If you do not like musicals, this is not the movie for you. Just because Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell are on the poster and in the movie does not make it a movie you're going to want to see, because it is a musical. If you don't like musicals, don't see this. Choreography in this movie is absolutely fantastic. I love it. There's beautiful moments. There's just some beautiful scenes, beautiful music numbers. There's a musical number involving flashlights that's really cool. It's very simple at times, but also feeling like it's really big. So I love the choreography in it. It is also just kind of a big movie and big musical. And it is a lot. It's a little over 2 hours, I believe. And it feels like a lot. It really does. Some of the songs are kind of, honestly, I'd compare I'm not the biggest fan of The Greatest Showman. There's some good songs in there. I would say 4 songs out of the, 10 or 12 songs in Greatest Showman are good. And that's kind of this movie for me, too. There's, like, a few songs that I really liked that I had in my head after leaving the theater, but most of them kind of just left. They're just not super memorable. I don't love the team of songwriters on this. I think they are the same ones that did La La Land. And the thing I love about La La Land is there's really only 4 or 5, like, musical numbers in there. There's a lot of beautiful score in there. There's a lot of song in the background. But there's not really all that much, if you think about it. Full out, we're just going to break in song moments of La La Land. Like, the opening definitely is. There's definitely moments with Mia and Sebastian where they are singing together, but then there's also just like performing moments. There's moments where they're just at the piano singing together. I wouldn't consider that like they're breaking out in song. They're just sitting down and singing together. If you and I were to sing together, I wouldn't say, oh, we're doing a musical. No, a musical to me is more we're just all of a sudden breaking out in song, I'm reviewing movies for you. There we go. That's a musical. We'll call it Codeman Musical. No, let's not do that. Anyway, guys, so yeah, the musical numbers in this, not my favorite thing in the entire world, but they're fine. They're good enough. And there are some definitely great memorable ones, I will say that. The director of this movie kind of feels overwhelmed. I forget some of the other movies he's done, but he's never done like a musical. And he feels like he's balancing a lot with this. Like I said, this is kind of big and over the top. There's some special effects in this. There's some big choreography moments. And it feels like at times the director maybe was a little overwhelmed with what he had. And it feels a little messy at times. And it's interesting because from what I heard of this was another remake of The Christmas Carol, which it kind of is. But at the same time, I would call this a little bit more meta Christmas Carol. This movie literally mentions The Christmas Carol. This movie literally mentions Scrooge. So it's kind of a movie that knows what it is inside of itself, if that makes any sense. And then there's certain things that happen in the movie. I won't spoil, but there's certain things that happen that you go, oh, so this is like Charles Dickens took inspiration from this, and it's inside of this, inside of this. It gets crazy how meta this movie actually is. And I really did kind of like that. This movie has twists and turns that I certainly did not expect coming. So that is really interesting. They did something different with it. It's not just a paint-by-numbers remakes in musical form. It's a meta kind of remake that does some really interesting things, that has some fun, interesting twists, and it is funny. So, Ryan and Will are Ryan and Will. Their acting is nothing phenomenal, and it is Ryan Reynolds' character is kind of supposed to be like this narcissistic butthead, and he's Ryan Reynolds. I struggled to think of him as a narcissistic butthead in this movie. He's just Ryan Reynolds. Will Ferrell is Will Ferrell. Their acting is nothing incredible. I wouldn't say any of the acting performances are like amazing. But again, I don't think that's what this movie is trying to do. I don't think this is trying to be a big Oscar movie necessarily. It's just trying to be a fun meta remake of the Christmas Carol musical. And that's kind of what it is. So it does do that. And like I said, it is fun. But at the end of the day, it is a little bit too long. I found a lot of the music just not necessarily the most memorable. I don't know if I want to listen to the soundtrack of this one necessarily. There are also some pacing issues that make it feel even longer than it did. The singing, Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, I mean, they don't necessarily have these amazing singing voices. They're not actual singers. They're not in bands or anything. But they're doable. It's fine. Olivia Spencer, that's her name, I think. Yeah, she's in this movie as well. Again, she's not a singer. She's fine. It's doable. There's nothing terrible in this. It's just that, it's not the greatest singing in the world. And again, for this movie, I think it's just fine. And I will also say this. The actors do commit to it. It seems like they gave it their full effort. And again, I think everyone on this movie just knew what they were making. They knew they weren't going for Oscars. They just wanted to make this fun kind of meta remake of A Christmas Carol in a sense. And it is very creative, a lot of fun with choreography, and I really did enjoy it. Is this going to be an every year I want to watch this kind of movie? No. But I think I will go back and watch this at some point in time. I don't know if I'll go pay to go see it in the theater again, but I definitely would watch this, on Apple TV Plus eventually. I don't currently have Apple TV Plus. Apple TV Plus for me is kind of one of those things where I'll wait for a certain period of time and then I'll kind of spend a month just watching everything that I kind of want to watch and then get off of it. Because, it's cheap. I think it's like $5 a month, but for $5, I won't be using it. And I would rather save that by the end of the year, $60 towards something else. So I really enjoyed this movie, guys. It's nothing spectacular. It's nothing game-changing. But if you like The Christmas Carol, if you like musicals, if you like Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, this is definitely a movie for you to check out. I give it like a 7 out of 10. It's nothing spectacular, but it is good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think it's at like a 50 on Metacritic. I think that's way too low for this movie. There's a lot of energy and fun in this movie, and it is enjoyable. So, all right. Next up, guys, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special. I kind of watched the trailer for this, but it was without sound. So I'm not going to spoil what the big plot of this is in the movie, because if you haven't seen the trailers, this is a really big, pleasant surprise. What I will say about this special is I had a smile on my face the entire time. This is just a happy, joyful, kind of 45-minute little Christmas special, and I really enjoyed myself. I don't love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I thought the humor was a little bit too much. I enjoyed the Guardians in Infinity War, the little bit of time they had in Endgame, and the little bit of time they had in Thor Love and Thunder. But I didn't love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I loved the first one, not so much the second one. And I was a little nervous for it because of the fact that I didn't love the second one. This surprisingly worked for me. I didn't find the humor as bad as Guardians 2. It's still really silly and kind of over the top, but I felt it went a little bit more back to what the first one was. So it worked a little bit more for me. There's like a couple original Christmas songs in this that kind of like open and end the movie, and they're fantastic. Those are something I do want to listen to. Whereas like The Spirited, I don't know that I want to listen to that album. I would love to pick up the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special album and play it at home. Like, I really did enjoy it. It's very simple, 45 minutes. It's nothing long, but it has enough content in there to make it really fun. And I will probably watch this in the upcoming weeks again, because it was just really enjoyable. There's some really great comedic moments. The main characters of this really are, what's her name? Mantis and Drax. They're really the main characters of this one. They go out on a quest to give Peter the ultimate Christmas present, since he's upset and he's kind of sad and misses Gamora on Christmas. And that's kind of what the bulk of the plot of this movie is. And Mantis and Drax are both side characters in the movies, so we haven't gotten a whole heck of a lot with them. We've gotten enough, but we got more with them, and they surprisingly work really well together. Their chemistry is great, and they were just a lot of fun to spend a little bit of time with. So it's just a lot of fun. It's really funny. Nothing too long. Everyone can just have a good time with this, whether you're young or old. They're really enjoyable characters. There's also some things that I didn't expect. There's some plot points that I feel like are actually going to be really important to Guardians 3. I kind of do feel like you need to watch this before going to see Guardians 3, because there's just a big, particularly one plot point that is really big. It's just something that is integral to the story of Peter, and I think it's going to come up again, and it's great. From watching, I haven't rewatched the first Guardians in a while, but Drax as a character just feels like he's getting dumber with each movie. And I hate that. I thought Drax was such a cool, strong character. Yet, yes, that he didn't understand sarcasm and such, but I just feel like he's gotten dumber. And I wish they would go back to making him not so dumb. He spent how much time now with the Guardians? Like, you would think he would have learned a little bit more, and it just seems like he's still dumb, and I just don't like that. There's also animation in this movie. It's towards the beginning and the end of the movie, and it is so beautifully animated. It's classic animation. I believe it's kind of where they take the actors in, film them, and then they kind of like paint over that, essentially. I don't necessarily know how it works, but it's beautifully done. And guys, at the end of the day, I don't have too much more to say about this, except it's just fun. It is funny. It is heartwarming. It's just a great little thing. The plot of this movie is hilarious. Just the plot alone, again, I'm not going to spoil it, but the gift they want to get Peter is hilarious. And I absolutely loved it. This is nothing game-changing. This is not anything spectacular. But I just did my ranking for the MCU, and this was in my top 5. I think it's number 5 for me. I absolutely adored this. It was so much fun. I'm going to give it like a 8 out of 10. I really did enjoy this, guys. Something I will definitely rewatch, and I'll rewatch it probably every Christmas. This is so much fun. I loved it. And my computer sucks. Next up, guys, Fabblemans. Black Friday, I decided to drive an hour and a half to go do a triple movie marathon. All 3 of the movies that I saw were not playing in my local market, so I decided to drive an hour and a half to go see them all in a theater that was showing them all. So I had to do it. Fabblemans. This is the Steven Spielberg movie, and it is very loosely, I guess, based on his life, growing up as a child in the midst of his parents' divorce. And I was really, really excited for this one. And I gotta say, this is kind of a messy movie. It packs so much stuff in there, which it is semi-autobiographical, so it is probably true to what happened in real life, but I didn't feel it was very cinematic in a way. There's 1 minute they're making movies, the next there's this family drama, the next he's in high school, then he's got a first girlfriend. It felt way too long. It's about 2.5 hours long, and it does cram so much into it, and I just feel like some of it was put in for dramatic purposes to try to make it cinematic, and it just didn't. It felt weird and out of place, and it felt like a fairy tale at times. It just felt like a little too much. It's very much a Spielberg movie. The score is great. I believe John Williams has said this is going to be one of the last movies he does for scores. I think there's one more he's doing after this. I forget what it is. But, I think it's Indiana Jones. I think that's the last one. So this is the last Spielberg one we are ever going to get. It is beautiful. I'm so glad that he worked with Spielberg for this final time, one of the final times. The editing, the cinematography, all the normal stuff that you see in a Spielberg movie is great. Everyone he worked with behind the scenes, essentially, with the score and editing and such like that, are all people he's worked with in the past. He's developed really strong relationships with. Even Tony Kushner, I believe he wrote West Side Story. So he's worked with Spielberg, and it shows that it's a very beautiful movie. It is a very strong movie. Definitely going to be in the awards talk coming Oscar time. But I would say it won't be in my top 10. I was kind of disappointed by this movie. It's a movie with so much beauty in it, but at the end of the day, it feels flat to me. It feels a little hollow to me. And I was hoping for so much with this movie, and I just kind of left feeling a little disappointment. It's a good movie. I really enjoyed it. I don't feel the need to ever watch this one again, though. And there is a documentary on HBO Max. I've heard about it. I've never actually seen it. Excuse me, I need to take a drink here. I've heard about this documentary. I have it added to my HBO watch list. And I really want to watch that because I feel like that's going to be a better thing to watch than the Fabblemans. And again, it's not like the character, it's called the Fabblemans, not the Spielbergs. So it's loosely based on his life, but I think there's definitely a lot of it in there for sure. It's a very difficult movie. It's so weird talking about it because it's such a good movie, really, at the end of the day, technically. But it just felt so hollow to me. And out of the 3 movies I watched that day, this was the worst to me, which is interesting because I give it pretty much the same grade as all the other movies I saw. But I don't know how to really talk about it too much. There's so much good elements in it, such great scenes. There's a scene where the main character is filming this war scene, and he's telling one of his actors what kind of performance he wants to get out of him. And it is so strong. It is so powerful. It is so emotional. And they film this scene, and I felt like I stopped breathing for a bit because it was such a powerful, amazing thing. the way I felt watching that scene, and it's scenes like that are so great. For another example, it's 5-10 minutes of the movie where Judd Hirsch, it comes in as a supporting character, and it's the best scene, probably one of the best scenes in the movie as well. He's in it for 10 minutes, and it's so strong, so amazing, but it's 10 minutes of the movie. And then there's this other drama that comes in, and there's stuff like with a bully, for example, in one scene towards the end that felt so fake and so fairy tale, and it just doesn't need to be in the movie. It's such a confusing movie for me, and it's such a good movie. If you love making movies, you should go see it. Just know that I think you're going to be a little disappointed by it, or I don't know how to describe it. It's so weird. This movie has me so conflicted because I really did like it, but I was also bored by it. And it's so weird putting those two things in the same sentence together, but that's the best way to describe it. It's such a good movie, but I was bored by it. I'll never watch it again, I don't think. It's just beautifully done, but I just don't love it. It's weird. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, guys. I really liked it, but it's boring. That makes no sense. But, you know, that's the way I'm going to say it, because that's the way I'm feeling. Yeah. Also, it's really weird. It says in select theaters November 11th. In theaters everywhere Thanksgiving. I think it opened up in less than 1,000 theaters. Literally, the closest place I could go see this movie was like an hour and a half away. It's so weird to me that it's open everywhere, but it's in less than 1,000 theaters. That doesn't make any sense. I don't know what the idea by this is, if they're going to add more theaters to it. But then why say it's open everywhere? Why not just say it's a limited market? I don't know. Just interesting how the marketing is for that. So next up, guys, the second movie I watched that day. I really want to make sure that this is still filming because I haven't really checked it. Usually I check that. I don't know if you've noticed, but hey, it's still going, guys. You're still with me. Good. Next up, guys, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. We have had so many adaptations of Pinocchio. There was one in 2020. There was earlier one this year, the Disney remake one. So many versions of Pinocchio. And it is a good story. I love the story of Pinocchio, but boy, is it getting to be a little too much. We have overdone this. The fact that we're getting 2 a year at this point, or about 1 a year, is just enough. Let's leave it to rest, is kind of my thoughts going into this movie. However, Guillermo del Toro was a part of this. Did he direct it? I think he directed this one. I don't know. I think he directed it. I'm not sure. Yeah, director. He directed it. Okay, so yes, he directed this, which gave me a little bit more hope for it. And I believe it is more based on the actual original Pinocchio story, which, I will say this, if you were going in expecting a Disney version of Pinocchio, this is not it. This is a very dark, kind of depressing movie. It is very much a movie that deals with grief in a very big way, and it's very different. This is kind of weird too, because there are quite a few musical numbers. Like Pinocchio, when he makes a transition, that's kind of weird, from puppet to a live puppet, he makes this big musical number. And then there's kind of no musical number for a while, and then it kind of goes a little bit more in the middle, and then it kind of goes again a little bit towards the end, but it's not a musical, I don't think, but there's musical numbers in it, and that was kind of weird. I didn't go in expecting musical numbers necessarily, but there's musical numbers, and they are good. I liked them. I don't think they're anything I'm going to play on my phone or anything. I don't think I'm going to go buy the soundtrack for this, but there are musical numbers, and they're very interesting. Again, like I said, this is a version very much dealing with death and grieving, and it is dark. It is a Guillermo del Toro movie for sure. I think it's PG-13 too. I don't think it's PG. So this is not a movie kids are going to like. there's a lot of war. This movie very much feels like it hates war. A lot of characters in this movie hate war. Pinocchio goes through an experience that kind of makes him hate war. So it's very much against war. There's also quite a bit of religion in it, which I was not expecting. I don't want to say too much on that aspect because I feel like it's going to spoil the movie. But there's a lot of religion in this movie as well. The relationship between Geppetto and Pinocchio is very interesting. Because at first, Geppetto kind of hates Pinocchio. He's a nuisance, he's annoying, he's messing everything up. And it's just kind of interesting, that relationship. I found that very awesome and original. Even if it's not, that might be in the book where he's annoyed by Pinocchio, I'm not sure. But it was very interesting to see how much Geppetto was kind of annoyed by Pinocchio. Their relationship is it's filled with lots of tension. It's a lot of tension. It's a big tension-filled relationship. And I found that very interesting. This is stop motion, which is something that takes forever. And I know how painstakingly, I can't say the word. It's a lot of work. I know that. And with that, it brought so much beauty to this movie. This movie is so beautiful. So amazingly done. The cinematography with a stop motion movie is insane, but this is such a beautifully animated movie. The stop motion is great. I love the puppets. Even like Pinocchio's nose. I love this design of Pinocchio's nose. I love the production design in this movie. I love everything about it in that sense. Such a beautiful score, and while the music is not something I'm going to go back and listen to necessarily, it is hauntingly beautiful. And it is, if you've watched any other Guillermo del Toro movies, you know his scores are just something that kind of pierce you. And this score definitely did that. It's so beautiful. Definitely weird, strange characters, like a lot of Guillermo del Toro movies. It's also very moving. Like I said a few times now, it's a movie that deals with grief and death, and something you can definitely relate to. It's definitely very moving, and I was absolutely moved while watching this movie. And I would say this movie is very different than any Pinocchio movie you've ever seen. And I really liked that. Just a lot of weird things. This movie also deals with time, in a sense. There's very different... This is no blue fairy, necessarily, that comes into Pinocchio's life. It's other things that were very interesting. Which also was a little bit of a negative for me. It kind of added to its runtime. It padded the runtime a little bit. At the end of the day, guys, I really enjoyed this movie. It's not one I'm going to want to rewatch anytime soon. It's going to be on Netflix. I think it's like December 9th. It's coming up within the next couple weeks here. It's a movie I'm glad I saw in theaters. I don't know how well the box office has been for this one, but it's a movie that I think you should experience in theaters if you can. If not, I do recommend watching this on Netflix. I do recommend watching it somehow, some way. It's different. Keep in mind, it's different. Even Jiminy Cricket is not Jiminy Cricket. He's Sebastian Cricket or something weird like that. And it's very different. It's kind of depressing at times, but it's very good. And I really did enjoy myself on this one. I can't believe how much I enjoyed it, honestly. It was not something I was excited necessarily to see, but it was Guillermo del Toro. I had to go check it out. Guys, I'm going to give this one like an 8 out of 10. I'm surprised by how much I liked it. And again, I don't know how much I want to rewatch this one, but it moved me. And it really connected to me, and I really did like this version of Pinocchio. It is a bit long, I think. I think it's just about 2 hours. I think it could have been 10, 15 minutes shorter. There's kind of this weird subplot with this character that I don't want to mention necessarily. I don't know if that's in the original story, but again, it deals with time, which is kind of cool in a sense, but it also pads the runtime. So those are my two big negatives with it, I guess you'd say. But a really interesting version of Pinocchio. Check it out. Next up, guys, we're going to talk about Knives Out. Technically, I watched this after seeing Glass Onion, which we'll talk about in a second, but I want to talk Knives Out first. Knives Out came out in 2019. I remember being very, very excited for this movie. I loved the cast. Absolutely thought it was a killer cast. And I remember going to it and was kind of just by it. I thought it was good. It was really good. But I was kind of by it. I knew from the start, just by looking at this poster, I know who the killer is. And just the minute the killer comes on screen, I knew who the killer was. This movie tries doing misdirects. It didn't work. I went, no, you're still the killer. That's a weird twist. I don't know how it's going to unravel, but you're the killer. And it just kind of turned me off because I just knew immediately who it was. They were trying to do these other things to misdirect me, and it just didn't work. But I still really do enjoy this movie. I love the location. The house is so awesome. This mansion that they're in. I love that set and that location. I believe it's an actual mansion in like Massachusetts. I can't say it. I can't say a state. I need alcohol. Maybe I can say it after that, right? Massachusetts. Yeah, I think I'm still saying it wrong. Anyways, guys, I love the set. I love the location. I love that the person who is killed is this murder mystery writer. It makes it kind of meta in the movie. I love that. The cast is great. Everyone from Daniel Craig to Ana de Armas, Chris Evans. Gosh, who else is in this? We have to look here. Jamie Lee Curtis, Michael Shannon, Don Johnson, Toni Collette. I don't know who that is. Catherine Langford. The guy from It. Christopher Plummer. I mean, such a great cast. Such a great cast, guys. And everyone plays such unique, interesting characters. I love Daniel Craig's weird Kentucky kind of accent. And Ana de Armas is so good in this movie. Chris Evans, I love the fact that early in the year, just months ago, we had gotten the movie Avengers Endgame, where he's this stoic Captain America guy. And then 3 months later, he is this big butthead douchebag. I love that he kind of went for something different, and he's doing different things with his career now. With The Gray Man, he plays the villain, and I love that he's doing different things, trying to get out of the mold of Captain America, because he's a decent actor. I'm not going to say he's an amazing actor, but he's a decent actor, and I love that he's trying new things. So I will say that. Like I said, there's a lot of misdirection in this movie, and I just never believed him. I knew who it was just from the minute the movie started. I don't know what exactly it is, but I just kind of knew. I knew. Craig's introduction with the piano is absolutely perfect in this, and I loved every second that Daniel Craig's on screen. You can tell he is just soaking this up. He's having a blast. It's interesting because I immediately see him and I just think James Bond now, but you see him in this movie and even Glass Onion, and you can just tell he's enjoying playing this different character where he doesn't have to jump off buildings and shoot people. He's just crazy, kooky detective guy, and it's wonderful. Craig is just so great in this. I love how funny it is, too. There's a lot of dark humor in this, and then just the characters are so over the top and ridiculous, and it's just wonderful. I love, like, the montage towards the beginning of the family doing these interviews. You're seeing different sides of things. They're insulting each other at times. Just wonderful. And I love each character. Jamie Lee Curtis is kind of this down-to-earth character at one moment, and then the next she's kind of a bitch. Love that. I love, Chris Evans is just a douchebag in this movie. Michael Shannon is mysterious, and he's got, like, this dark stuff to him. Toni Collette is a highlight for this movie. She's so funny and, like, snooty at times, but, like, dumb at times. I love her so much. I love everything about the technical aspects as well. It's so beautifully directed. Rian Johnson put a lot of love and care into this movie. You could tell after just working on, what's the movie called? The Last Jedi. He wanted something completely different, and he did something completely different, and I love it. I absolutely love it. The direction is absolutely amazing, and everything on screen just feels so intentional and like it has a purpose. Every shot feels needed. I don't feel this movie's too long at all. I feel like everything in this movie needs to be in this movie. And I loved every second of it. Like I said, my biggest issues with this is I just, immediately from looking at the poster, if you watch the trailer, you know who it is, in my opinion. I really did just immediately know. And that just bugged me. I don't know. Every time I watch it, it bugs me that I immediately know who it is. There's a lot of great things about this movie. But it's just, like, this was in some people's top 10 of the year. It wasn't in my top 10. It was maybe in my top 20, top 30. Really enjoyable movie. I think I went and saw it like 3 times because I had fun with it. It is a fun movie. I remember the friend I had at a time that I brought him to see this movie. He was having a bad day. And I said, let's go see Knives Out. Your day is going to get a little bit better. And his day did get better, which is kind of interesting considering it's a murder mystery. It's a whodunit. But he had a smile on his face when he left, and he said, thanks for bringing me. This helped. And that's what I can say that's really great about this movie. Is it just similar to the Guardians of the Galaxy special in a way. Just kind of had me smiling the entire time. Even though I was on what happened and knew what was happening, I still enjoyed it. The way the murder mystery plays out is not too ridiculous and over the top. There's some things that are a little bit convenient. Some things that are a little like, okay, sure, but you go with it. And it's just kind of a fun, interesting little movie. It's well written, beautifully directed, beautifully acted. Everything technical about it is great. I will say some of the characters are kind of sidelined. The kid from It, for example, I don't even know his name in the movie. I really don't. Actually, I don't know a lot of characters' names in the movie. But like Jamie Lee Curtis's character, for example, you get enough about her. You know her character. Whereas just the kid from It, what's his name? Jaden something. Jaden Martell. I think that's it. His character is just a teenage boy that's quiet and masturbates a lot, and he's into Nazis, I guess. Weird little stuff like that doesn't fully work for me. I think his mom's kind of just there. I don't even know nothing about her, really. So there's sideline characters, of course, but you get enough that you enjoy the cast, and it really is a good time, guys. I don't think this movie's a masterpiece. I do think it deserved a sequel, because we're going to talk about the sequel in a second, and I really enjoy the sequel. But this movie, for me, I'll give it like an 8 out of 10. It's really good. I really enjoy this movie. I don't think it's the greatest movie ever. Again, what really bugs me is I just know who it is. And maybe it's because it's the actor that plays them, but I don't know. It bugged me that I just immediately know everything kind of that was going to happen. So yeah, that's Knives Out. Next up, guys, we're going to talk Glass Onion. This was the third movie I watched on Black Friday in my triple feature. And the movie I was most excited about. The reason why I did drive an hour and a half was because I really wanted to go see this in a theater. I do not want to watch this movie on Netflix. I wanted to see this movie in a theater. And I hope Netflix learned from this weekend, because this movie was the third movie in the box office this weekend. And it opened in like 600 theaters, I think. Nothing compared to what most movies have. If this movie had been full-fledged released, it might have taken out Black Panther. I think Black Panther made, what, $40 million this weekend? I think this movie originally opened to like $30 or $40 million. I think this movie could have taken out Black Panther. I think there was enough excitement for this movie. I think enough people liked the first movie. I think people liked the cast of this movie that I think it could have taken out Black Panther. And instead, they're putting it in theaters for 1 week. I think today is like the final day you can see Knives Out. Glass Onion, whatever you want to call it. I think today's the final day. And it's unfortunate, because they're missing out on tons of money. And we, as fans and people, are missing out on seeing this movie on the big screen. I would love to go see this movie a second time. I'm really upset that it's not playing near me, that I can't go see it a second time. It's out of theaters today. I have to work today. I can't go see this. I can't drive an hour and a half to go see it again. I would love to, though. It's unfortunate that this is the way Netflix is doing things. I hope Netflix is learning that this is stupid. Put things out in theaters. You can bring it exclusively to Netflix after the movie has had its run. Netflix is also losing out on a bunch of money, it sounds like. There's some issues behind the scenes, it sounds like. For the love of God, people, let's learn to put our movies in theaters. The big screen experience is what we all freaking want at the end of the day. Yes, we will go on HBO Max to see movies the day it comes out. We don't want to. Put it in theaters. I talked last week how Disenchanted should have been in theaters. I didn't love that movie, but I think the movie would have made bank. The first Enchanted made, if you just for, I was watching Dan Murrell. I talked to Dan Murrell last week. Dan Murrell's a great person to watch if you are interested in box office. Every Tuesday, he talks about the box office every week, and he does flashbacks. And flashback to 15 years ago, Enchanted came out and made like almost $100 million its opening weekend. For a movie that had a budget of like, what was it, $50, $60 million? That's incredible. Disenchanted should have been in theaters, and it wasn't. Instead, it's going straight to Disney Plus, and they're missing out. Missing out. Duh! Watch movies in theaters. I have yet to even talk about Glass Onion yet. Guys, I love this movie. I really do. I think this movie is so much better than it's better than the first. I wouldn't say so much better, but I think it's better than the first. Another great cast, guys. You have Daniel Craig, once again, coming back, being awesome. Edward Norton, Janelle Monáe, Catherine Hahn, Leslie Odom Jr., Jessica Henwick, Madeline Klein, Kate Hudson, Dave Bautista. Such a strong, amazing cast. Again, the characters are so unique. The character of Catherine Hahn compared to Dave Bautista's character, it's hilarious. It's great. I love it so much. There's also some really great cameos this time around. They're literally on screen for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, some of them. But they're such great cameos. When they came on, I went, is that? Holy crap, that is. And they're literally in the movie for 10 seconds. But it's great. I absolutely love that. Craig is even better in this one. I love Daniel Craig in this movie. I love what he is doing with this character. I feel like he's having such a blast playing this character, and I love it so much. Daniel Craig is so great. So great in this movie. It is beautifully written and has such great characters once again. I love the whodunit of this even more this time around. In the first Knives Out, the movie opens with, we found the character dead. This movie, all the characters are there, and then someone dies. So you know that the movie's a whodunit, and someone's going to die, but you don't know who it is. So for the first half hour to 45 minutes, you're wondering, who's going to die? Are you going to be the one that's going to die? Are you going to be the one that's going to die? Who's going to die? And then someone dies, and then it really becomes the whodunit. And it is so much better. I love that there's the two mysteries inside this whodunit. There's like two whodunits, essentially, on who gonna die. It's a whodunit and a who gonna die kind of movie, and I love it. I just loved it. It takes a while before that mystery starts. It really builds up. This movie is a little too long, in my opinion. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. I think it could have been the same runtime as like the first, like a 2:10. You could take out 10 minutes of this movie, but still really enjoyable. They kind of open up with the movie taking place in, I think it's like May of 2020. So it's in the height of COVID. This movie 100% acknowledges COVID. And I think it spends a little too much time kind of setting that up. I think it didn't necessarily need to be in there, but I get why it's in there. I feel like, similar to the first, I feel like I knew who the killer was, and I was correct in who the killer is. I will say this, though. This movie does try to misdirect you. And unlike the first, I think this movie misdirected me better. In the first one, I knew that the misdirects were 100% misdirects. This time around, I was going, I think that's a misdirect, but I might be wrong. I might be wrong. This movie could surprise me. In the end, it didn't necessarily surprise me, but the misdirects were better done this time around, and I really enjoyed that. Also, hold on a second. Something I forgot to mention actually about Knives Out. The costumes were so great. And in the first one, you have the rich family. All their costumes are over the top, ridiculous. And let's go back for a second here and just, look at Jamie Lee Curtis's dress there. It's so richy. The Nana dress, you got freaking It Kid. They're so uniquely dressed. They're kind of dressed like rich people. And then you have Ana de Armas, which she's kind of poor. You know, her family are immigrants. The costume, though, is so great. And I love kind of how over the top these are while giving us this kind of stuff as well. Knives Out is even better. I mean, the costumes for these characters are so great and just kind of reflects their personality more. And I just think the costumes are so incredible in this movie. The production design is insane. It's on an island. And I believe, if I remember correctly, this was filmed like during COVID. The time frame where it takes place is kind of when they were filming. And so there was a lot of COVID stuff going on. And so they really were on this island, essentially. And they kind of need to be on this island because COVID. And production design is amazing. They're in this big mansion, once again, that is modern and slick. And it is so insane. The sets are so fantastic in this movie. Production design, absolutely great. Once again, beautifully directed. Rian Johnson, he can keep doing 50 more of these, I think. I think I would still love him. It is so fun, so interesting, so unique, so different, so funny. This movie is even funnier than the first. There is a particular scene where Daniel Craig, towards the beginning, Daniel Craig is like working out this mystery. And the way he does it, and the way a character responds to him just figuring out this mystery so simply is hilarious. And I loved it. Where am I at? I already said that. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I don't want to say too much more. I have some notes here that I feel are a little too spoilery, so I'm not going to say them. This is just such a fun whodunit. I love these movies. I hope Daniel Craig keeps doing this. This is so interesting, so funny, so unique. Everyone in this movie is great. I just love these over-the-top, ridiculous kind of cartoony characters that also feel so real-worldy. And there's like the politics in these movies too, but they don't feel like politics. It's the way politics should be done. And I just really enjoyed this movie, guys. Guys, I think I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. My one complaint is maybe it's just a bit too long. It should be closer to the 2-hour mark or 2 hours, 10 minutes like the first one was. Is there some conveniences, some things that are a little too complicated to make sense? Yes, but it works. And I absolutely loved it. This is such a great movie. Netflix, stop being stupid. Put your movies in theaters. Idiots. Dumb idiots. Oh, I'm missing a movie. Oh, shoot. I just realized I'm missing a movie. We'll talk about that one, though. Anyways, we're going to move on, guys. Sorry about that. Fall. Now, this is a movie I had heard about, and I really wanted to see. I went skydiving back when I was 18, I think. And I've been an adrenaline junkie since. I have a motorcycle. I, climbed mountains. I've done all that stuff. I love this kind of stuff. So I was kind of excited for this movie. Basically, the plot of the story is these two girls decide to climb this 2,000-foot tower that used to be like a radio station tower kind of thing, and now it's abandoned. They climb to the top, and as you can tell from this poster, things go crazy. The ladder breaks. They are stuck on this teeny tiny platform at the top. If they fall, they're dead. Phones aren't working. They have to figure out how to get off where they are at. Nobody's really at. Miles away are the closest people. They have to figure out how to get off. Now, as I said, I'm not really scared of heights. However, these girls really aren't attached to too much. They're attached to each other in this movie. That scared the ever-living crap out of me. There were moments of this movie where I got up off my couch and I started pacing. I was so stressed out. My heart rate was just a-going during this movie, guys. And again, I like heights, but this was insane. I've never really done heights in a non-safe way. And oh my God, I did not feel like these girls were doing this in a non-safe way. They were just climbing without really any ropes. They weren't really attached to too much. Oh my God, that's terrifying and gross. And oh my God, there is just some moments. Wow, did this movie give me an anxiety attack in the best way possible. Absolutely great. I will say this movie opens to a sequence that has some terrible, terrible green screen. And it made me scared for the rest of the movie. However, as the movie goes on, I couldn't tell there were special effects. I watched the behind the scenes for this. They filmed somewhat practically. They built a 100-foot tower. They were actually on a platform. So basically, this part was real throughout most of the movie. That part was not. And the blending of special effects and CGI, so beautifully done. I was so terrified the entire time watching this movie. It's not a horror movie, but it is such a tension-filled movie. And I loved every second of it. This was a movie that just got me going. This movie does not waste any time either. The opening are people climbing rocks. Something happens. I won't even spoil that. Something happens, and it just gets going right away. And within, I would say, 15, 20 minutes, these girls are on the top of this tower, and things go to shit really quick. God, this movie's intense. This movie is insane. Wow, wow, wow. Do not watch this movie high. I will tell you that. Thank God I didn't. I don't even watch this movie drinking alcohol, because it just freaked me out. The aspect ratio in this movie changes from the beginning, which I didn't even really notice at first. I think it started like full screen, essentially, like IMAX kind of thing. And then as you get into the beginning parts and they're setting things up, it goes to widescreen. And then the minute they're like going to the tower, it gets back to that IMAX and you get the full scale of this damn tower. Holy crap. Holy crap. It's just insane intensity right from there. I was screaming out loud. I was saying no. I'm going, you're stupid. You are stupid. Which the girls in this movie really aren't that stupid. They're doing everything the way they should be. They're doing everything they need to survive. It all makes sense. But it's just not something I would ever do. So I'm just immediately going, nope, 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 nope. You're stupid. You're dumb. You're dumb. You shouldn't be doing that. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. And that's what I was doing the entire time watching this movie. Just talking about this movie. I'm getting freaking... My heart rate's got to be insane right now because I'm just talking about this movie. And it is crazy, the crap that happens. My biggest negative with this movie. They try to add some drama into this movie. Some human drama into the movie. The girl's at the top of the tower, and you find out something that has torn the girls apart, which it doesn't need to be there necessarily. And it bugged me. They add this extra thing in to make one of the characters unlikable, and it didn't need to be there. It just really didn't. And it was extra fluff, and it felt out of place. I will say that. That's probably my biggest negative throughout the movie. And I love how practical they had the sets on this. How practical they kind of filmed this. From behind the scenes, I rented this from Redbox. And there was a special feature, kind of the making of it. And they kind of built this tower part on like the edge of a cliff, kind of. The girls, of course, were always attached with wires from a crane. So they were always safe. But they were up at the top of this thing, actually filming it. And there was kind of like a cliff. It was not nearly as high as this looks like. But they did film it practically. And I think they did such a great job doing that. Behind the scenes also showed that they didn't know if this movie was going to be a PG-13 rating or an R-rated rating. So they used the F-bomb a lot, which I probably would in situations like this too. I'd be screaming off the F-bomb 100 times a minute. I love the F-bomb. But they didn't realize it was going to be PG-13. So when the studio said, no, this movie needs to be PG-13, you need to reshoot it or fix it. This movie had like a $3 million budget, very cheaply made movie. They did not have the budget to go back and reshoot anything. So what they did is they deep faked their faces to say like frickin' and say other words, which was really interesting. I had no idea. I could not tell that their faces were like animated at certain points in the movie. And it was really interesting to hear that. Watch the behind the scenes of this. It's so interesting. It's so creative. Something else I will say about this movie, it's very predictable at times. There is something that happens towards the end of the movie that I didn't necessarily see coming. But when it happens in the movie earlier on, I went, no way that happened. No way that works. And for a little bit there, I was just like, okay, this movie got really unrealistic now. I don't like it as much. But then something happens later on that goes, oh, never mind, it is still realistic in a sense. So there's things that happen that are a little bit crazy, a little bit ridiculous, that are a little too much. There are things with vultures that just it just doesn't make any sense. That's not how it works. Certain things that happen, certain things that characters do that, there's no way in Sam Hill. I know the human body can do crazy things when it's under stress and blah, 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 but no way. There are certain things that happen. I just went, no way you could have done that for 3 hours at a time kind of thing. So some ridiculous things that happened that took me out a little bit. But otherwise, guys, this movie is so thrilling. I was on the edge of my seat or off my seat, literally pacing my living room because I was terrified. And I loved every second of it. If you have not seen Fall, I wish this movie would have somehow gotten a wide release. It did not have a very big wide release. I think it was in like 50 theaters. Boy, do I wish I could have saw this in a theater. But it would have been hard to have sat in my seat and watched this. My heart was pounding the entire time. Like I said, I was pacing. I was terrified watching this movie. So I can't imagine watching this in IMAX. I think I would have peed myself or shit myself. It is such an intense movie. Guys, I love this movie, though. It is so insane. If you have not watched Fall, for the love of God, watch Fall. If you're scared of heights, though, good luck. I'll give this movie an 8 out of 10. It is insane. So insane. Now we're going to move on to the next movie, which I forgot I even watched it. Well, I didn't forget I watched it, but I forgot to put it on my posters and stuff. It's the movie Bros. I have already talked about the movie Bros. I rented this from Redbox same night I rented Fall from Redbox. And I've talked about Bros before when it came out the opening week. Bros is such a good romantic comedy, guys, that if you have not seen it, you should. Yes, it is a gay film. It's two men falling in love. There are sex scenes that are gay sex scenes. That's something that's making you uncomfortable. You're not going to like it. I guess don't watch it. But for me, it shouldn't be uncomfortable. It's people having sex. I don't know. That's my opinion of that. I have a father that's very homophobic. If he sees two men kissing in public, he wants to puke. I don't understand that because he will make out in public. And it's supposed to be sweet and romantic and everyone should be like, oh, look how much they're in love. But if two men are in love, it's gross and disgusting. I don't understand that. I don't feel that way. I feel my father's an asshole. We're getting too much into my family politics here. The point is, love is love. A comedy is a comedy, and this movie's hilarious. It's way too long. There's some things that happen at the end that are way too cheesy, but I really enjoy this movie, guys. I laughed so much during this movie. Billy Eichner tweeted some things on Twitter. He basically said, if you don't go see this opening weekend, you're an asshole and homophobic. I didn't see this movie opening weekend because I worked during that weekend, but I saw it the opening week. So I guess I'm an asshole because I didn't go see it opening weekend. That does bug me. Forget the behind the scenes stuff with it and just watch the movie as this comedy. It's similar to like Bridesmaids. I did not think I was going to like Bridesmaids at all because it's a chick flick. But at the same time, the minute I saw that movie, I just was laughing. It is such a great comedy. Yes, it's female-led. Yes, it's about girls planning a wedding, but it's so great. I love Bridesmaids so much. I love Bros so much. Directed by the director of Neighbors, Neighbors 2. What else did he direct? I think he directed something else that I love. Oh, I'm forgetting Sarah Marshall. It's such a great movie. The writing is fantastic. The comedy is great. The chemistry is so great. I love the characters in this movie. It's a tad bit long. It's produced by Judd Apatow. And it goes on a little too long. There's this really cheesy thing that happens towards the end of the movie that was just dumb in my opinion. Maybe it's because I don't like country music. Now you probably know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. But it's just a really good, enjoyable movie, guys. And good God, just forget the fact that it's a gay movie and just watch it. Watch it as a romance, a comedy romance. And if you like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, there's no reason you shouldn't love Bros. That's my opinion on it. We're getting into politics and stuff. I don't like that kind of stuff. So we're going to kind of end it there. Again, I don't have a poster on here. I completely forgot about it. Not because I don't love the movie. I absolutely love the movie. It would be a movie I'd buy on Blu-ray. I don't think it was on sale during Black Friday. Which, by the way, I'm going to have a video up probably on Sunday. Sometime this weekend, I think. Maybe Saturday. Sometime this weekend, I'll probably have a video up on the purchases I made during Black Friday. It wasn't a whole heck of a lot this year because Black Friday sucked, but we'll talk more about that in my Black Friday video. Like I said, I think I'm on video, and this will be number 39 or 38 for videos I've done this year as far as Codeman Movies podcast go. And I kind of want to have at least somewhere between 45 and 52. I want to say that I've done at least a video a week this year and doing this. So yeah, we'll talk about a little bit more of that on Friday, this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, one of those times. We'll talk about it eventually. Be prepared for 2 videos again this week. Hopefully next week too. I don't know what I'm going to talk about though. I kind of want to do another ranking kind of thing. Excuse me. Maybe we'll do like Christmas movies since we're getting into that holiday. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyways, guys, Fall was poster up. I didn't have a poster of Bros, but that's Bros as well. Bros is such a good movie. I give it like an 8 out of 10. Way too long. Some cheesy stuff that's just a little too much. Otherwise, it's a really great movie. Watch Bros. Support that movie, even though Billy Eichner was being a dick. Next up, guys, She Said. I did a double feature yesterday. I went to the movies for $5 Tuesday, and I did a double feature. Watched the movie She Said. This movie is based on the true story and based on a book about 2 journalists that were doing a case and wrote a story on Harvey Weinstein and his horrible things he did as far as sexual assault, rape, everything into that. Horrible, horrible things he did to women. And this is a movie about 2 women being journalists and doing this case, discovering this case. So just right there, because of that content, this is kind of a hard movie to watch. It is a movie similar to Spotlight that came out in it would have been 2015, because it won Best Picture 2016. It's just disturbing stuff. It's hard to listen to. It's hard to watch. It's a movie I don't necessarily want to watch ever again because of its content more than anything. The movie is also, it's journalists. It's a movie that's 100% basically just people on phones or in boardrooms talking, or even in boardrooms talking on the phone to other people. There's nothing like tension-filled necessarily in this movie. It's just lots of talking. It's talky, 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 talky. If you're going in hoping for action sequences, if you're going in hoping that there's going to be crazy over-the-top stuff, no. This is very much people talking on phones for 2 hours. That is really what the movie is. The acting in this movie is absolutely phenomenal. Zoe Kazan and Carey Mulligan, absolutely amazing in this movie as the leads. There are moments, this movie is kind of, it's not messy, I wouldn't say, but it's jarring at times. There are moments of this movie that use actual recordings of people talking, and it's shown in spots of the movie where we're like looking down a hallway, which is, how do I want to say this? The recordings are awful to hear. The hallways, how they show the hallways, it's intense. It's very well done. It also feels like a documentary. It would be like, this is the example I'm going to give because it's something that I was obsessed with the last couple of months. It would be like watching Dahmer Monster Story, the dramatic retelling of the Dahmer story that took liberties, and then taking scenes from the Conversations with a Killer, Jeffrey Dahmer story, taking some spots from that movie and putting it into the Dahmer story, which Dahmer did do a little bit in the sense it took the actual phone call recordings from Glenn at Cleveland, but it was towards the end of the episode. It was kind of like an end credit kind of thing to it. It didn't put it right in the middle of the show. And that's what this movie kind of does. It takes actual things and puts it in, and it's just kind of jarring. There is some people that you know in this, well, not people, people are meant, well, that's not true necessarily either. Ashley Judd, for example, is in this movie. She was very much a part of this story back in 2016, 2017. And she is in this movie as herself, giving her story of what actually happened, what we saw in real life. Gwyneth Paltrow is another name that is named. She's not actually in the movie. I don't know if it's an actual recording of her voice or if it's an actress doing her voice, but that does happen. There is an actor that does a Trump voice in this movie. It's not actually Trump. So there's things like that in this movie. Again, it does get a little jarring at times. It's a little weird at times. And because this movie is just phone calls and such like that, it does feel longer than it actually is. I'm not going to say it's boring. I was focused on the screen the entire time. I was very compelled by this movie, but at the same time, the pacing does feel longer just because it is just talking. And the editing's different in this movie. There's just things that sometimes they hover on. Shots of doors or something that they hover on. And it just makes it feel longer. I think that's part of the reason why the pacing didn't work for me, as well as the jarring aspects of the movie that felt like a documentary that are really powerful, but just felt like this should have been a documentary and not a dramatic telling of the movie, essentially. Even though it felt slow, again, I was engaged with this movie. I was never bored by conversations or anything like that. It is all really riveting. Again, hard to watch, but it is a story that should be told. It is a story that should be heard. It's very important in my opinion. I'm not an asshole dude in any way. I believe in equal rights for women and men. Again, I don't get into politics. I don't like that stuff, but I do believe that this is an important story. This is a movie I really enjoyed, even though it's really hard to watch. I don't know that I ever want to watch it again because it's so hard. But it is a really good movie, an important story, something that is part of history. And Harvey Weinstein was just a piece of crap. He's not dead. He's in prison, but he better be in prison for the rest of his life, and I hope it's not a good prison. I hope he's miserable, and screw that guy. So yeah, at the end of the day, guys, I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. It is really hard to watch. It's not one I'm necessarily going to recommend to everybody, but it did bomb the box office. If you can go see it, I do recommend seeing it if you can handle the content of it. It is kind of hard to watch. There's not necessarily anything graphic in this movie, but you feel it. You feel the graphic of it without it being seen on screen, essentially. So it is kind of hard to watch, but if you can, please see it. Holy cow, we're over an hour. I only have one more movie really to talk about. So, last movie I saw is Bones and All. I didn't watch any trailers for this. I didn't know nothing about it. All I saw was this poster, which this poster looks like a love story to me. They're literally in the shape of a heart. I thought for sure this is a love story. I went to the theater, was talking to my friends that work at the theater and such like that, and they were like, it's a cannibal movie. I went, huh? They're like, yeah, people eat each other in this movie. I went, huh? And they're like, yeah, you didn't know that? I'm like, no. The poster is two people. It's a romance, drama, depressing movie. They're like, no, not from what I hear. It's more of a horror kind of romance movie. I went, okay. Did not expect that. I was expecting my double feature movie marathon to be very depressing. That is not what this movie is. Not at all. One of the other members that was working there, though, was like, Cody, I'm going to read you the description, though, on what this movie says it's actually about. Basically, what the description of this movie was that the theater had was this girl goes on a journey of self-discovery. Young girl, I think she's like, 18 in the movie, goes on a journey of self-discovery. That is the correct way of what this movie is. The poster's lying. Yes, there are scenes of cannibalism in this movie. It's maybe 5 to 10 minutes of it. Essentially, this girl kind of has, I don't know if it's a disease or condition, but she needs to eat people in order to live. Again, there's maybe 5 to 10 minutes of cannibalism scenes in this 2-hour, 20-minute movie. It's really not that much. It is a part of the movie that really doesn't even need to be in the movie, in my opinion. Take out that entire plot point, and it's the same movie. Is there romance in this movie? Yes. But it's not like Titanic. It's Timothée Chalamet shows up, I would say, a half hour, 45 minutes into the movie. And the romance section of this movie is maybe the last 30 minutes of the movie. I don't think it's overwhelmingly a romantic movie. It's more of a road trip movie with this girl trying to discover herself, figure out who she is, what her life is. And yes, there is romance by the end of the movie, but that is not what these posters should be selling. It is a movie about a girl discovering herself. It's very weird. It is very messy. I don't think this movie knows what it wants to be. I think it wants to be a horror movie. I think it wants to be a kind of a coming-of-age, self-discovery movie. I think at other points, it wants to be this romantic drama, but it's not. This movie is so weird and conflicting, and I don't love this movie. Very beautifully, technically done, but I don't love this movie. I did not watch the trailer for this. I kind of want to see what the trailer is for this movie to see if the trailers are misleading compared to this poster. Because this poster is the most misleading poster I've ever seen, possibly in my entire life. That is not what the movie is. It's just not. Yeah. Where am I? Mark Rylance is a side character in this movie. And I'm not going to spoil too much about him. He's very creepy and weird. But he's part of this cannibalism side plot point. And it just doesn't need to be in the movie. It seems like, I don't even know how to describe it, because Mark Rylance kind of just shows up out of nowhere. And the excuse that this movie kind of gives for Mark Rylance just showing up out of nowhere and knowing where these people are at is because he can smell them. Other cannibals can smell their cannibals, I guess. It's so weird. When I was getting told what this movie kind of was before going to see it, I was like, oh, so this is like Twilight, but with cannibals, which there are moments of that, yes, but that's not what the movie is. It's so interesting. It's beautifully shot. It's very artsy, and it just wasn't for me. It's not a movie for me. I think this is something that people can really enjoy, not me. Bits and pieces of it I liked, but it just was not focused. It was very messy and all over the place, in my opinion. Plot points didn't need to be in this movie. This movie's over 2 hours, and it just should have been like an hour, 45 minutes. So I can't recommend this movie necessarily. If you're a person that doesn't like horror movies or graphic stuff, you might be okay. There's really not much of that, but there are definitely some parts. If you are someone, I'm saying this because there are people at my theater last night, but my friends there, that didn't like horror or romance. If you don't like romance, you could still probably watch this movie. It's really not about romance. It's more of that self-discovery. So it's a really weird, interesting movie that I really didn't love. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It's not bad. It's just messy and unfocused. Lastly, guys, we're going to talk about movies coming out this week. There's really only one. Violent Night, David Harbour, Santa Claus, kind of John Wick, Santa Claus. It looks interesting. I saw a trailer for it before Bones and all. I'll definitely see it. I'm not super excited. 7 out of 10. Excitement level. We are over an hour, so I'm going to kind of wrap this up real quick. I also have to pee like a freaking racehorse. That's why I'm starting to get a little jittery. But yeah, guys, I will hopefully have a video up again towards this weekend talking about Black Friday. And yeah, we'll see you next week, guys. I'll definitely go to the movie, see this, and we'll see what else happens. Until then, guys, I really have to pee. Bye!